Hello all you lovely people. My name's Leslie and this is a bonus episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast because I am delighted to announce that I am co-hosting a knit along for 2019 and I didn't want you to miss out. We've got all year but I still don't want you to miss out, so putting this up early. Normal service will be resumed at the end of the month. Now, as you know, I am someone who has been on a yarn diet for over a year, with the intention, with one or two exceptions, of keeping that going for this year until I can fit everything into a couple of cupboards. The lovely Barbara from the Flame and Fibre podcast, who is Diva S on Instagram, and I will put all of her hashtags and things on the screen, is also looking to go on a yarn diet for this year, and she suggested a year-long knit along, and frankly I said to her, you're reading my mind, Barbara, because I was thinking of doing a knit along and I didn't know quite how to structure it and what angle to go down, and she came up with it all, so thank you very much. Yeah, so we are hosting a year-long knit along. Now you'll have to forgive me reading from a piece of paper, but I want to make sure I get everything right. So, the rules. Craft from your stash. You can knit, crochet, spin, weave, whatever you do, as long as it's yarn related or fibre related. And it has to be yarn or fibre that you owned at the end of 2018. So it has to be from stash. Now I'm not here telling you not to buy yarn. The reason for using yarn from stash is to make room for your more yarn. So please do not see this as an attack on dyers or yarn producers. This is giving you the space to buy more stuff. That's my excuse and I'm sticking it to it. Think of it as enabling if the thought of being on a yarn diet is uncomfortable for you. Certainly this is not a knit along that, you know, to be part of it you have to buy no yarn for a year. Absolutely not. That's my phone in the background, apologies for that. All we're encouraging folks to do is just knit from stash, and the experience of shopping from stash is great. Looking to see what you've got, seeing how it works together, it's really satisfying, and I hope that you get some enjoyment from that. So you may find that you do need something to finish a project. That will be acceptable as long as the new purchases aren't more than 50% of the overall item. So I hope that's clear. You've got to be a member of the podcast group to be eligible for prizes. Now this is on Ravelry only, this knit along, craft along, crochet along, or make along. My phone is just being noisy, I do apologise. So although I do sometimes do things with YouTube prizes, this is Ravelry only. And to win prizes from Barbara, please join her group. To win prizes from me, please be a member of my group. And again, I'll put the links in the show notes. Multiple dipping is encouraged. So by all means, post a finished object on my thread, post it on Barbara's thread. If you're taking part in another craft along, that's absolutely fine. As long as it fits our criteria, that you haven't started it before the 1st of January, because no whips allowed. It's 1st of January, you've got all year. We're hoping that's reasonable. So if it's stash that you owned before the end of last year and you started the project from the 1st of this year, you're eligible. If it's also part of another craft along, great. More chances the merrier. And I will just at this point flag you towards Chevyrell Stuff podcast, and she's running a new to me make along. She's part of a large team of co-hosts on that. So if there's a technique that you've wanted to try, and this can be, or even a new craft that you've wanted to try. So if you want to try knitting because you've always been a crocheter, or, you know, kumihimo braiding or anything, or a new technique within the craft that you do. You may have never knit in the round before, or knit in pieces before, or colour work, you know, any of those things. That's going on until, I think that finishes on Valentine's Day. Anything that you make for that, or any other knit along, as long as it's stash you owned before the end of last year, started from the 1st of January this year onwards, by all means enter it into our knit along as well, to be eligible to be put into the draw to win a prize. And this make along, craft along, knit along, crochet along, weave along, spin along, all along, runs from the 1st of January to the 31st of December this year, so it is for the entire year. I'm conscious I may be rambling a little bit, so I'm going to put all of these rules and mechanics into the Ravelry group. So there'll be 2 threads on my Ravelry group. There's a finished object thread, and that's a no chatter thread, please. So just put pictures up of the items that you finished. I can't believe my phone's today. Well, apologies for the telephone interruptions that then got to the point where I had to go out and do some work. So I've changed my clothes and we'll try again. So, the mechanics of the craft along. There'll be 2 threads on the Ravelry page, a finished object thread and a chatter thread, and I'm just going to straighten this slightly. That's better, I think. Apologies for looming in on you there. Yes, so the finished object thread will be no chat, please. Each finished object will go in a post of its own, so if you make 5 objects, have 5 different posts in that thread. And I'll draw prizes occasionally for that, probably quarterly, kind of makes sense to do it then. And the final draw at the end of the year, which will be for a larger prize, will also be from that same thread, taking everything for the whole year. The chatter thread, you're encouraged to put in works in progress, comment on everyone else's posts. You can also put your finished objects in there if you'd like to, so people can comment on them, tell you how wonderful they are. So that's all good. And again, there'll be a draw from that thread. Probably patterns will be offered and those sorts of things. So those during the year prizes will be relatively small, but then there'll be a bigger, probably yarn related one at the end of the year. There is a hashtag which I will put on screen, hashtag stashcal with a K 2019, and if you can use that when you're posting things on Ravelry and on Instagram, because although none of the drawing will be done from Instagram, it will all be on Ravelry. It'll be nice to see your works in progress and the stuff that's going on there. So if you're putting any projects that you're entering into the craft along onto Instagram, please use that hashtag. Thank you. And just one other little prize, or probably not so little prize from me, at the end of the year, as well as the main prize, which will just be drawn, random number generator, I'm also going to keep a note of the folks who use more than one yarn in a project, because that's kind of my thing. I like to combine yarns, as we know. So all the people that have got more than one yarn in a project, I will draw from a hat, and there'll be a prize to someone who's made a project that way as well. So good luck. I hope you enjoy this craft along. As I said earlier, the shopping from Stash I really enjoy. It's come out of necessity initially, but I love looking at things thinking, oh, I wonder if that will work, and just sometimes when there's so much choice, you don't know where to go with it. When the choice starts to be a bit limited, so it's got to be from my stash, or it's got to be a pattern in my library or something like that, kind of focuses the mind in a bit more. So that can work pretty well. So yeah, good luck. To sum up, because I feel I've been rambling, craft from your stash. Stash had to be in your possession at the end of 2018. Projects have to be started no earlier than the 1st of January 19. So it's a this year craft along, and you have until the end of the year, 31st of December, to make them. You can enter on my podcast group. You can enter on Barbara's Flame and Fibre podcast group. But to be eligible for a prize, you have to be a member of the group that you're entering in. Prizes will be drawn periodically, like I say, in my case probably quarterly. Kind of makes sense to do it that way. And there'll be a large prize at the end. There will also be an additional prize from me for projects that use more than one yarn, and I will be drawing out of the hat for that. 2 threads on each group, Flame and Fibre and Not Quite Enough Yarn. One's finished object thread, the other's a chatter thread. So please enjoy. Enjoy the joy that other people create from their stash. Enjoy the things that you create from yours. There's no restriction on the type of thing you make, so you could be spinning from fibre that you've had for a while, you can be making a small project, you can be making an Afghan that fits a king-size bed. It's entirely up to you. Thank you so much, take care, and I'll see you at the end of January as normal. Thank you. Cheers.